Welcome to the second video of the GRE Summit Vocab program. In V1, we learned that idolatry means the religious worship of idols. But what exactly do we mean by worship? If you look up its dictionary meaning, you see two definitions. One is reverence, while the other is reverent love and devotion, adoration. Of course, reverent love denotes a greater, deeper emotion than just reverence. So the word worship actually includes within its scope two distinct emotional states, reverence and the deeper, greater emotion of reverent love. Now, look at this painting. What are the man and the woman doing? They are worshipping the stone idol. Yes, but what if I ask you to be more precise? What if I ask you to say whether the couple is only venerating the idol or whether they are adoring the idol, showing reverent love for it? If a room full of people are asked this question, some may say they both look calm, they are not showing much passion, so the emotion seems to be lesser than reverent love, and so I think they are only reverencing the idol. But others may object to this view and say, oh please, not everyone shows love the same way. The calm prayer of this couple can as much be an expression of love as dramatic gestures like kissing the idol 100 times. The couple may very well be adoring the idol. So, the best answer to whether this couple is venerating the idol or adoring it can perhaps be given only by the couple themselves. Who are we to say what is actually going on in their heads in the moment shown in this painting? But if we are pressed for an answer, whether we see veneration in this painting or adoration depends on us. We may even see something entirely different in it. The stage is now set to learn some GRE words. The first is ambiguous. It is used for a thing that is not clear and potentially confusing because it can be interpreted in more than one ways. For example, the meaning of the word worship is ambiguous. It is not clear and potentially confusing because this word can be interpreted either as reverence or as reverent love. The noun form of ambiguous is ambiguity. Pause the video and read this quote, which is spread across two slides, about the ambiguity in the meaning of worship. So, since the word worship is ambiguous and there are two different ways in which it can be interpreted, some people used to clarify the meaning they intended to convey by adding of adoration or of veneration to the word worship. Look at this image. What do you see? This famous drawing by William E. Hill contains both a young woman and an old woman. People see one of the two women immediately but have trouble seeing the other one. Could you find them both? Pause the video now if you want to solve this on your own. Hints follow next. The younger woman's necklace is the older woman's mouth, and the older lady's nose is the younger one's jawline. Such images are known as ambiguous images because they can be interpreted in more than one ways. Other famous ambiguous images are the duck and rabbit and the Reuben vase, which can be seen both as a vase and as a set of two identical faces. Next, let's revisit the fact that whether you saw veneration in the painting or adoration or something else depended on you. What you saw was subjective. There is no objective action conveyed by this painting. The words objective and subjective are the opposite of one another. Objective means independent of personal feelings or biases based on facts, not on feelings. Subjective, on the other hand, means depending on a person's feelings, thoughts or beliefs and therefore based on how reality is perceived rather than on objective reality. To perceive something means to become aware of it through one of our five senses. For example, you may perceive the room getting colder, or you may perceive the music in a bar getting louder. The noun form of this word is perception. Perception is that awareness of something around you that you gain through your senses. And what then would be a misperception? It would be a wrong awareness, a false information given to you by your senses. Someone who is good at noticing and understanding things is said to be percipient. Look at this image. You can perceive that circle B is darker than circle A, right? Wrong. Both the circles are of the same color. So circle B's relative darkness was a misperception. Circle B appears to be darker than circle A because it is contrasted with a lighter background. Such contrast effect also causes misperceptions by our other senses. For example, if you put your left hand in cold water and right hand in hot water and then put both hands in a tub of lukewarm water, your left hand will feel the water to be warmer than your right hand. So, these examples show that our perceptions may sometimes be wrong. Next, what do you call something that cannot be sensed through your eyes, ears, nose, tongue or touch? This is a thing that cannot be perceived. So, it is imperceptible. It's time now for an interesting exercise. Search for these terms on YouTube right now. Pause this video and watch the video that comes up. Okay, done? So, how many editing mistakes did you perceive in that video? If you spotted even one, then you were more percipient than me. Each one of those mistakes was imperceptible to me. You may also watch the Monkey Business Illusion for another such exercise. But we have digressed. To digress is to wander away from the main subject and start talking about something else. We were talking about the ambiguous nature of the word worship and the subjectivity of how one person's act of worship may be interpreted by others. But then we got carried away into a discussion of perception and errors of perception. So we digressed. The noun form of this word is digression. Let's get back on track now. The point that I was making before our digression was that what the couple is actually feeling at the moment depicted in the painting is imperceptible to us. We can only guess, and since your guess can be different from mine, what we see in this painting is subjective. Idolatry is proscribed in Christianity. So a devout Christian will probably see this painting as a portrayal of idolatry because this couple is not worshipping Christ but a stone god, a false god. But what if this painting had an icon of Jesus instead of a stone god? How would a devout Christian have felt about the painting then? Well, the answer would be subjective again. It would depend on what region and branch of Christianity this person came from. As you have just learned, idolatry is proscribed in Christianity. However, veneration of icons has been a part of Christian worship rituals right from the earliest centuries of the religion. And for just as long, the question of whether such icon veneration violates the proscription on idolatry has been hotly debated in the Christian world. In other words, this has been a contentious question. The word contentious means that which causes argument. This word is also sometimes used for people. A contentious person is an argumentative person. Some devout Christians passionately believe that icon veneration violates the proscription on idolatry, while others just as passionately believe that people who venerate icons do not adore them, and that therefore icon veneration is not the same thing as idolatry. We have already discussed the ambiguous nature of the word worship. So, we can also understand this contentious issue of the Christian world as follows. If idolatry means the worship of idols, then the first group of people believe that both meanings of the word worship should be applied to the definition of idolatry, and therefore they think that the biblical proscription of idolatry includes veneration of images. On the other hand, the second group of people believe that the word worship should only be understood in the sense of worship by adoration, and so to their minds, icon veneration is excluded from the biblical proscription of idolatry and therefore is okay to do. As you can see, how these two groups interpret the proscription of idolatry is subjective. Both groups sincerely believe that they are right, and this is why they argue very passionately about the correctness of their own position, and so the issue of icon veneration has been so contentious in the Christian world. So, let's quickly revise the words we learnt in this video. We started by noting the ambiguous nature of the word worship. Then I showed you a painting and we discussed how what you see in that painting is subjective and not an objective truth. Subjective things are those that depend on our perception. Then I gave some examples of the limitations of human perception. Sometimes our perceptions may actually be misperceptions, and sometimes we may not be able to perceive things that are indeed very much there. Such things are imperceptible to us. Then we realized that we had digressed and got back to discussing our main topic, which was the subjectivity in how the word worship is interpreted and in how the biblical proscription on idolatry is understood. We learned that the practice of icon veneration has been a contentious one in the Christian world. We could not get to the story of the 8th century king in this video, but all this context was necessary for you to understand why the king did what he did. I'll share his story in the next video. But before that, revise the words we learned here and do this practice exercise. In the comment section below, give an example of something that is usually thought to be an objective truth but is actually quite subjective. Okay, so do this task and keep climbing word by word up towards the GRE summit. See you in the next video.